Hello and welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profits Show. I'm sure glad that you guys are here with me today. We've got a great panel to talk about a really cool thing, and that's the growth so that we understand what's going on in business, so we continue to learn and know more about photography and know more about the business side. So we've brought three of your fellow photographers to give their opinion on what they do, what they think is important, what direction they feel they should head. My name is Jim Landers, and my mission is simple. I help portrait photographers just like you make a great income doing what they love. Each week, you get tips and systems on the business side of photography designed to help you gain a mastery over marketing and sales, reducing the struggles that most photographers face so you can finally get what you deserve. You're in the right place. Welcome to the Portrait Profit Show. The Portrait Profit Show is brought to you by Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. And from Digital Pro Lab, we have Amanda with us today. Hey, Amanda.
Hey, Jim.
So this is a special day for Amanda. And I don't know if she wants me to be telling everybody, but I think everybody should know. It's her birthday. Happy birthday, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've gotten so much love on social media and my phone's blowing up. So it's a nice day to feel special.
Totally believe that. Totally believe that. Well, I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope you're excited about all the questions that are coming and the speakers that are the panelists that we have with us today to answer these questions. And I bet you've got some opinions on continuing education for photographers as well.
Yep, as an educator myself, I'm big on education, so it's a key to success for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
and the panels are my favorite, so I'm ready.
Yay! All right. So, are you going to have something that you want to share with us at the end?
Yep, I do.
Okay. So, you guys, once the questions are all done, don't leave. Stick around because Amanda on her birthday has something to share. All right. Thanks, Amanda. I'm going to bring on the speakers real quick. Oh, and you know what? Before I do that, I want to encourage you guys to leave messages and ask questions. So if you've got a question you want to ask the panelists, we might ask it. We have all the questions lined up, but if we think your question is fantastic, we might just throw it in. And so I want to encourage you to do that. And so I want you to, I'm going to put something across the bottom of the screen right now. If you are okay with us seeing your name, then click this link that you see across the bottom. It's StreamYard.com/Facebook. So if you click that link, then we'll be able to see your name as well as your comment. We'll be able to see your comment anyway. It'll say Facebook user or YouTube user or LinkedIn. By the way, we're simulcast to 5 different Facebook pages, 1 LinkedIn page, and 2 YouTube channels. So therefore, you can interact with us on any of those and it'll send it to you. But if you click this link, then it allows us to see who you are. And if you don't do it, we don't even know you're there unless you make a comment. So we encourage you, make comments. Click to ask questions. And we encourage you also, I see one of you has already clicked that love button. Thank you so much for showing the love. We appreciate that. So click that love button, click that like button, whatever you feel is appropriate. If you think something we said is funny, hey, we're good with the funny emoji too. So we love that interaction. If someone says something you agree with, enter in the comments, yes, or I agree. We want to see that interaction. That helps us. That keeps us going. That's part of the fuel that keeps us going, and we encourage it. Let's bring on our 3 panelists, and we'll allow them to introduce themselves independently in just a moment, but we're getting them, bring them on just to say hi real quick. So we have Ashley Heinen.
Hi.
And we have Michelle Valenzuela.
Hello.
And Steven Alvarez.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome. So Amanda and I, once a month, have a panel and we just ask questions. Now, you guys know what's coming up. You know what's happening. You know what we're doing, and you've probably watched the Portrait Prophet show before, so you have some experience there. We're going to be asking you a series of questions, one at a time, the same question, and we just want to hear your opinion. Whatever it is that drives you, whatever it is that you feel, there aren't any wrong answers. There's just whatever it is that drives you, and we get to see these answers from 3 different points of view. And that's what we're after. So thank you guys so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Awesome. You're welcome.
All right, so let's take everybody off, and I'll bring you guys on one at a time, and we'll begin with Ashley. So I'm going to actually leave Ashley on. So let's take everybody else off. There we go. So, Ashley.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, about your opinions, your philosophies, your goals, your, what makes you excited? Tell us about your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a full-time photographer for about 2 years now. I live in Medina, Texas, so I'm about an hour or so, hour 15 from San Antonio in a small town. And I work with, I specialize in all kinds of photography, family, maternity, weddings, elopements, engagements, a little bit of everything. I kind of photograph out here. And on my spare time, I enjoy photographing nature and wildlife. So that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited.
Yay. All right, so let's have Michelle come on next. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and your passions, your interests? Tell us a little about you and your business.
Yeah, so I own 1044 Photography. I'm based out of New Braunfels, and I've been doing photography for about 9 years. Part-time for 8. I just went full-time in January, so I am a full-time photographer. And I pretty much specialize in events and portraits. I would like to kind of niche down to graduating senior portraits. So I'm kind of narrowing down my niche on my photography as well, just because I do a lot of different things and it kind of gets hectic. My events have taken over pretty much this year. So trying to narrow down to something that I love and working with teams. And that's something that I basically want to niche down to.
Sounds like a lot. Are you staying busy?
I've been busy. Honestly, I've been really busy.
Good.
On top of that, just still continuing my education as well.
It never ends, huh?
Never ends.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, let's bring on Steven Alvarez. Steven, how's it going today?
All right, Jim.
Can you tell us a little bit about you and your business, your passions?
Well, first off, I'm a husband, father, and I am probably the only 3-fingered portrait photographer you will ever know. I specialize in portraits that encapsulate your true self and a piece of art to display at home, on your desk at work, or on your phone to make everyone jealous. And what that means is I basically let the person inside shine. I don't really believe in, forced smiles. I believe in everybody has their true nature, and my goal is to capture that. And, my business name is Stevie3 Photography, and that's me.
Nice. Well, I'm so glad you're here, Steven. And Stephen and he's been in some of my classes. Well, so has Michelle. But you were in one that just happened a few months ago. Yeah. And I got to hear your story of why you have 3 fingers. And I think it's really cool that you've included that. I mean, because I'm sure it didn't come across in the beginning as something you were excited about or proud of. It was probably something that was a huge amount of frustration, and yet you've added this into who you are, and it's part of your description of who you are. That's kind of cool. What do you mind me asking? What that evolution was?
Well,
what caused that?
It began with honestly a lot of anxiety. I wasn't able to wrap my head around my hand. Let's just say it that way. For those who have not heard my story, I actually had a table saw accident where I amputated two of my, main fingers. I was a student at UTSA for architecture. My whole life was drawing and graphing, and that flipped my world upside down. And 6 months later, I just needed a job, and I started at Life Touch. Where they just, sometimes a warm body is good enough. You just need to get there and get the picture. And I shied away from the looks that I would get from the students. And before long, I realized that I have a passion for making them smile and making them express themselves. That it might not necessarily be a classic smile for you, but that's what the parents see, and that's what the parents enjoy every day. And it got to the point where I'm like, okay, you know, this is me, and I'm not everybody else, and I don't need to be everybody else. And it's gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, this is me to a fault. This is me to a T. Might as well own it, and that's my company now.
Thank you for sharing that. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate that. That wasn't something that he knew was coming, so I apologize for putting you on the spot. But
No worries.
because of our experience together before in one of my business classes, I knew that you knew the answer and that you had a good way of sharing it, and so that's why I figured it's a good time to tell people what this means. All right, so thank you, Stephen, and I'm going to start asking the questions with Michelle. So I'm going to take you off for now and move to Michelle. Michelle, the first question that I have for you is just to give me your philosophy on continuing education for photographers. What do you feel is right for photographers? Not necessarily what you do, but just what's in your head. What do you feel a photographer should do?
Well, definitely, education is, like Amanda said earlier, it's definitely key. Anywhere from starting, to learn your camera in manual, basically taking control of what you want your image to, for your final image to look like. You have to take control of that. So you have to learn how to use your camera, how to learn, what lighting you want to use. There's just just so much in photography. Photography is art. Just like in any art, you gotta learn different skills and techniques to own and fine tune your art that you're wanting to express. And it's just definitely a very important key. I've been doing it for 9 years. I actually started with Jim taking classes, learning how to use my camera. Photography is an expensive hobby, and you have to, I guess, focus on what you want to do with photography. What are your goals? And you're always going to be learning different things. I mean, Photoshop is a monster at first, but you have to gradually learn different things on what you want to, how do you want to use Photoshop with your photography. So gosh, there's just so much you can do and learn. I mean, I'm still learning. I'm actually taking off-camera flash classes, just because, I started with natural light, using on-camera flash, learning studio work, lighting in studio. I mean, I kind of use all this education to market myself in different areas. You can say I was a jack of all trades, so I pretty much market myself on anything possible, how I can help my client bring their vision to life. So definitely education is definitely key. It's a continuous process if you're eventually going to take it into running a business. I know a lot of us start out as hobbyists, but then we find that passion, we have that drive, and we want to learn more. And it's always going to, if you want to stand out, definitely you're going to have to continue that education, as you go, and then fine tuning on how you want to present your art at the end.
That sounds good to me. Yeah. I agree. There's a lot of things to learn. You're never going to learn it all, and learning is fun. I think most of us love it.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for that, Michelle. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Let's ask that same question now. Let's see. Let's bring Stephen back on to share his philosophy. And before I do that, I forgot to tell you, if you're watching live, do me a favor and enter hashtag live into the comments. Just hashtag the number. It used to be called number sign. Hashtag live in the comments. Now, if you're watching this later in the replay, then please enter in hashtag replay. But hashtag live if you're watching this here. That helps us know who's here. I'd like to give shout outs. Like I want to say happy birth. That's something that someone says. Happy birthday. I'm glad Roxanne is here. Hey, Roxanne. I'm glad Amber's here, and Miguel and Lupe. And it looks like there's 2 different Robins. And I appreciate them both and love one of them. Well, I love them both, but different ways. And Heather is here, and Sharon. I'm glad you're here, Sharon. Steven's here. Kevin is here. Oh, he's got a question. I'll have to ask that in just a bit. Who else is here that I haven't mentioned yet? Well, there's several, and I'll hopefully recognize each one of you. But do me a favor, enter in hashtag live. Let me know you're here. And also, if you've got questions or comments, enter them. And click that like button and that love button every time you hear one of our panelists say something that you like, or me, or Amanda. Hit that like button, hit that love button. That's our fuel. All right, you guys. Oh, also share this with others. The more you share what it is that we're doing, the more people know what we're doing and can grow. Because if the entire photography community grows, then that means all of us grow in income and the quality of business. So we need to grow the entire industry to make that happen. So click that share button real quick. Let other people know about this. All right. By the way, the question that Kevin asked, Michelle, that sounds like something you'd probably want to answer to him directly. I don't know if you can see the questions that people are asking, but on one of the Facebook pages, he's on one of the Facebook pages, and you can see it there. All right, let's bring on Steven Alvarez. Steven, can you do me a favor and tell me about your philosophy on continuing education for photographers?
Well, honestly, if you aren't learning, you aren't growing. There is no direct path in the way you learn, but if you're passionate about what you do, there comes a point in time where you just realize that what you know is nowhere near all there is to know. And what I mean by that is there's so much out there where you think you know it, and you're get next to someone who has maybe 1-2 years more than experience than you, and your eyes just get blown wide open into the things that you didn't even know were a possibility, but you knew it at that time. You thought you knew it at least. And so that's what I believe. If you aren't learning, you are not growing.
Love it. Very quick, very simple, very direct to the point. You're not learning, you're not growing, and we have to continue to grow. So there you go. Good answer. Thank you for that, Stephen. All right, that same question is going to Ashley. Ashley, can you share with us your philosophy on continuing education in photography?
Absolutely. And I have to very much agree with Michelle and Stephen on that. If you're not learning something, then you're not getting anywhere. I think it's just really important, and it's going to be a key life skill in your photography career. So I very much agree on that. And I myself am still learning a little bit about Photoshop and how it all operates. So I'm learning something new all the time. And I think that that's how you grow. So.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
So that means the next question is going to you. By the way, I just realized, you guys, that on the handout that I sent you, the numbers aren't the way I had intended them. So don't necessarily go by those little numbers that are there, because I want this next question to go to Ashley. Ashley, can you answer this one? What top 2 or 3, not the hundreds of things that photographers need to learn, but just the top 2 or 3 things you feel like a photographer should be focusing their attention on when it comes to education and growing as a photographer?
Sure, absolutely. I think partially, specifically, growing as a photographer, my top 3 categories would be attitude, presentation, and communication. I think all those key skills are very important and such an important foundation to your photography business. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
yes.
So, tell me how you would enhance one of those, how you could grow using one of those. What thing maybe do you do, or would you suggest to someone to grow in one of those areas?
Sure. I would say definitely, starting with your attitude, how you communicate with your clients is a big deal. Speaking professionally, using the correct verbiage,
Love it.
calling them on the phone, having a face-to-face conversation with your clients even.
Okay.
So I think, your attitude and how you represent yourself as a photographer, just like we gave introduction today, do the same thing with all your clients. Let them know a little bit about you and what you're about. So I think that is a big key role in that.
Nice. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
So let's bring on Michelle and ask her that same question. Michelle, what do you think are the top 2 or maybe 3, because sometimes we can't narrow it down to just 2, skills a photographer should focus their attention on?
I think my number 1 is going to be technical skills, basically learning your camera. You know, that's basically the most important thing, is learning your camera, how to use it. And probably the next one is creativity. That's one that I'm passionate about. I love to create. I take my photography into art. So I, used a lot of landscaping, architectural elements at first, and then enhanced them and added people. So that's more of where I am. I love to do the creative stuff. And probably the third one, I would say networking. Honestly, in the last probably 2.5 years, focusing on wanting to go full time as a photographer, the networking and showing people, talking to people, building that relationship with other businesses, not only with businesses, but your clients, I think is one of the most important things that has helped me in my business. So definitely networking. I love networking with other photographers, other creators, not only that, but other businesses on top of that. So that basically took my business to the next level, and getting that mindset and basically taking that leap of faith. And I just took that leap of faith in December. So anyone can definitely do it. You just got to put your mind to it.
That's true. That's very true. Thank you for that, Michelle.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, let's ask that same question of Stephen. Stephen, what top 2 or maybe 3 skills should a photographer focus their attention on?
Well, as Ashley and Michelle said, I believe communication and knowing your tools are 2 of the most important skills when it comes to photography, and actually anything you do in the business aspect of any field that's needed. Those are the 2 most important things. Knowing your skill, knowing your tools, and knowing how to express that them to the client. And beyond, just the business side, focusing more on a skill that I believe is needed in the photography side that is often overlooked is composition. There's some beautiful scenery, and just like when you take a beautiful picture of the moon and you take it with your phone and it just does it no justice, if you don't know composition on the photography side, a lot of the times your vision is not going to be fulfilled to the greatest extreme. You know, it's not going to be what you envisioned, but it has the potential to be. You just got to focus on what you see and what you know other people are going to see in that moment when you take that picture and you take that photograph. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate you sharing that with us. All right, so I'm going to ask the next question of you, the new question. So, what's more important in a photography business, the business or the photography?
Well, honestly, there's two different aspects. If you are looking at it as the business side, as the career and income generating side, um, there are plenty of photographers who make a living while knowing the bare minimum on the photography skill side. But they succeed because they know how to market themselves beyond their expertise. It's taken me a long time to realize that just because you know how to take a great portrait or great photo doesn't mean everybody's going to see it if you don't know how to put yourself out there. But at the same time, if you get by on, being able to just network, there's going to come a point where as the photography community grows, our customer bases are going to grow and they're going to value the finer details and the finer art of it that you have overlooked because you got by. And so honestly, it's what are you more worried about at the time? Are you more worried that you're got the technical aspect side, but you don't have the business side? Jump to that. You got the business side. You're going great with business side, but you didn't get you forgot how to do composing or you forgot this part of your camera. Go back to the photography side. It's equal, but not depending on your needs. And I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And there are times when we are focusing more on one than the other because that's the need. That's what we have to do right now. But is it possible for someone who is incredible on the photography side to not do well in business as a photographer, in your opinion?
Absolutely. Vivian Ma, she's an example of someone who chose not to let her great portraits or great photos out. But there are plenty of undiscovered artists. There are children who are, putting some of us to shame on the photography scale with their creativity and, the outside the box thinking. So absolutely, without a doubt.
Very good. Thank you, Stephen.
That's it.
All right, let's ask Michelle that question. So, Michelle, in your opinion, what is more important, the business side or the photography side?
This one is kind of depending on what your end goal is. I mean, you have to look at it. Do you want to make it into a career? I would definitely suggest business. That's how you're going to bring in income. You know, I basically started as a hobbyist, so I can tell you that photography, as learning the creative side of it, I didn't know the business end of it. I was just, learning how to provide a quality portrait for people. Learning the business is now what I'm actually learning in the last 2.5 years. So it just all depends on what's your end goal. What do you want to do with photography? Do you want to make it into a career where you're gonna leave or make a living off of it? You want to do photography as a hobby? I mean, that's going to be an expensive hobby, but I mean, it just depends on where you want to go, at the end. Business plan, but basically, if I were to do it all over again, I would definitely choose business end of it, just because that's how you're going to bring in income, how you're making a living. So I would say at this point, business.
Yeah, that's an easier said one than done one. It's interesting how we really do need to think about it, but the business side is incredibly important, and we creatives at least at first, put most of our attention on that photography side until we realize how important the business side is.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Let's bring on Ashley. Ashley, what do you feel is more important, the business side or the photography side?
For me, honestly, it's a little bit of equally of both. But I think first of all, business is firstly important. While photography is additionally significant, the business aspect is your foundation to your photography. If you don't know how to reach out to clients or advertise, how are they going to know that you're out there? If you don't represent who you are and how you operate your business, no one's going to know anything that you're out there. So I think it's very important to firstly focus on the business aspect first, and then kind of learn your foundation of photography after that. So I would say more or less there's kind of an order to that. But again, they're both very equally important. And if you want to succeed as a successful photographer, you're going to have both.
Yeah. Totally makes sense.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So the next question is for you, Ashley.
Sure.
And that question is, in addition to educational options, what else do you do to grow as a photographer? So not including the classes, not including the workshops, not including YouTube videos. What else are you doing that helps you grow?
I'm a little bit learning everything kind of on my own. I kind of look at other photographers, kind of follow their sites. Like you and I are both, and everybody, I guess, is on San Antonio photography. And that kind of gives me a platform. I kind of scroll through and get familiar with some of the questions that are asked on there. Education is definitely important. And, if you don't have the education, you're not going to grow as a professional photographer. So.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, the organizer of the San Antonio photography Facebook page is watching you and hearing you say that. So he's probably saying, yes. Yeah, there's that community that that we can insert ourselves into and should, and participate, and we're going to come across things that we wouldn't have even thought of otherwise. So yeah, thank you for including that in your answer.
Of course. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So that same question of, in addition to educational options, is going to Stephen next. So Stephen, what do you think? What else do you do in addition to education options? What else do you do to help you grow?
I get out and explore. Me and my family, we probably go to Colorado. At this point, it's 3 to 4 times a year. There is always something new to see. There's always something new to try to capture. And most of the time, I don't get the shot. And I'm mad at myself that I didn't get the shot. But, it's a learning experience. I know, next time I better need a better tripod. Next time I know I need a remote. Next time I need to plan better to get what I want. But at the same time, it's just pure passion. It's pure fun. You're with your family, you're out in nature, you're out in something that you don't see on a day-to-day. It may be day-to-day for someone else, but for you, it's just something that you get to behold that sparks your energy, and really get to focus on photography for the sake of photography. And let's get out, explore, have fun.
Get out, explore, and have fun. I'm good with that. Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Stephen. All right. So, before I move on, I wanted to point out a couple of things that you guys are saying in the comments. By the way, I like what Rick just said about listening to shows like Portrait Prophets. Good answer. I like that. Keep that up. And so several others in here. So keep those comments coming. I appreciate those. Rick also was talking about his top three things: attitude, business, photography. It sounds like Ashley. So that's perfect. And who else is commenting about this subject? Amber says, I love to watch photography education YouTube every morning while drinking coffee because she feels like that helps her grow and learn a little something new each day. And I totally agree with that. Amber is someone who has taken 300 hours. There are only, let's see, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's only 11 people who have taken that many classes with me. So Amber is one that has completed over 300 hours of classroom time. That doesn't include private sessions because she was doing private sessions about once every week or maybe once every 2 weeks. So she has invested in the last 2 years well over 300 hours into her continuing education. So I wanted to point that out, Amber, because I think that's fantastic. You rock. All right. So, and a couple others of you I probably should be bringing up, but I want to get back to the questions. And so, Michelle, I'm going to bring you on, and you're the last one to answer this question. In addition to photography, regular educational options, what else are you doing to grow as a photographer?
What don't I do? That's the problem. So, basically, inspiration. I usually watch movies and listen to music. I travel. I listen to podcasts. I search YouTube just like every other photographer does, learning different things I want to do, such as something creating in Photoshop. I get out in the community on top of that. So I provide a lot of my services to nonprofits in the last 8 years. I work a lot, very closely with the community and so forth. So I give back on top of that. So surrounding yourself with people that basically refer, also a referral program, or people that know you as a photographer that you work with. I mean, there's just so many things that I've learned and have grown my business. Just doing, like I said, different workshops with other photographers. I mean, the San Antonio group is great. I mean, if you're not in there, then you're missing out. There's a lot of local photographers that offer free classes, workshops. Just getting out there and talking to other businesses, other photographers, other creators, networking on top of that. I do a lot, to get out there, pretty much to stand out and, grow my business that way.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Michelle. All right. So the next question is going to you, and that's, do you feel that it's a good idea to include education time on your calendar? Actually plan it. Make it something that is a normal part of your day, not just something that's an extra that you have if you find yourself with an extra period of time that you maybe might or might not do it, but do actually include it into your calendar. Do you think that's important?
Yes. Any type of workshops, like I said, there's tons of in-person workshops all over, different groups, different forums that you're part of on Facebook. They have different, like I said, workshops, and they usually announce them about a year in advance. So definitely, if you're interested in doing something like that, you basically need to put it on your calendar. Right now, all my Tuesday evenings are booked. I am taking, going back to that question on Kevin. It is an in-person class. I do that every Tuesday. So it is in San Antonio. If you want to message me, I can send you that information. But yeah, definitely, it's definitely important to put it on your calendar, just because life happens. If you're in business, my calendar is on me all the time. So that's definitely key for running a smooth process in your business as well.
Nice. Thank you for that, Michelle.
Mhm.
All right. So let's ask that same question now of, let's see, Ashley. Ashley, do you feel like it's a good idea? Would you recommend to photographers to put some time onto their calendar and actually schedule photography education?
Most definitely. That's the only way that you're going to keep moving forward and to be a successful photographer. If you keep putting it, tossing it in the corner and just forgetting about it, not putting it on your calendar, how are you going to, continue your education? How are you going to take it seriously if you're not taking the time out of your day and to write it down on your calendar? I keep about 2 or 3 different calendars on me. I have a digital calendar and I have a physical calendar. I will write everything down that I do. So it's very important. And like Michelle had mentioned, there are so many different workshops out there, and there's lots of free ones. I can just scroll through my personal Facebook and just see all of these suggestions for ads for workshops for photography. So to answer that question, absolutely yes.
Cool. I love it. Thank you, Ashley. I appreciate that.
Thank
And
you.
I'm going to ask that same question of Stephen. Stephen, do you feel like it's part of what a photographer who's trying to learn and grow and become better, do you think that they should be putting education on their calendar, some educational time?
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't plan for expanding your education, a lot of the times you'll tell yourself, I could do it later. I'll have time tonight. I'll go look at the class later. I'll watch the YouTube video, in an hour or so. And before you know it, life happens. You get caught up in things without even realizing that, 2 or 3 hours went by. So if you don't set out time for expanding your education and expanding what you're learning, you're kind of putting yourself in a hole, and that's what Portrait Profits has done really great on getting me back into the flow of it. Because I'm like everybody else, I forget, I put things off, and Portrait Profits tells me, hey, what, every Monday except for the second week, come here at noon, learn something, even if it's something you think come learn it again. There's stuff you missed. So I mean, if you're not planning, you're gonna forget. And if you forget, the only people that suffer are you and your clients in the long run. And that's not fair to your business, and that's not fair to the people that you try to provide a service to.
Totally agree with all that. And my biggest takeaway, of course, is that you're watching the Portrait Profit Show every single Monday. It's free. And that's something that both Michelle and Ashley mentioned too, is that there are not only paid resources, but there's free resources. And this is certainly one of them. Amanda and I put a good amount of time into making this happen. And we've never charged anyone for this information. And this is the 82nd one that we've done. And so for those who aren't taking advantage of it, I'm wondering why. Why not? So take advantage of your resources, and thank you for pointing out that you're watching the Portrait Profits Show regularly. I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have done more to expand my business within the last year than I did on my own for a very long time. So, shouts out to you and Amber for putting this on.
Thanks. Amanda,
I'm sorry. I read Amber on the. Happy birthday, Amanda. Sorry.
Love it. All right, so I'm going to be asking you the next question, but before I do, I'm going to take you back off and comment, let some of these comments that people are saying come on. So I'm going to bring you back on for the next question here in just a moment, and take that banner off temporarily. Oh yes, Tony, I appreciate you mentioning that. Lunch with Landers. Uh, so just in case you guys don't know, what he's referring to is every single week I take a photographer to lunch with me, and that's Lunch with Landers. It's on Tuesdays, and I'm going to the Dominion for lunch on Tuesdays every single Tuesday anyway. And so I figure, well, I'll just take somebody with me. And so that's what that is about. And let me show you the link to that real quick. Just give me a second to get it for you. Is that it? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to put that link in the, I'm going to post that link in the comments. So that way you have the ability to just click the link that Tony's referring to. Okay. So right now in the comments down in your news feed, you should be seeing Lunch with Landers. If you want to take advantage of that, just click on the link takes you to my calendar. Just click on the Tuesday that causes you to be able to come out. Schedule that and make sure you do it. And if you are unable, let me know ahead of time with enough time to be able to find somebody else. So one or two times someone has told me 5 minutes ahead of time. That's not enough time for me to find somebody else. But Lunch with Landers, yeah, take advantage of it. We get to watch a great speaker, because that's what's happening at the Dominion on Tuesdays. We listen to a great speaker, and then afterwards we talk about you or your business, whatever you want to talk about, for half an hour after that. So thank you for mentioning that, Tony. I appreciate that. And let's see, who else has mentioned some things on here. Huh. A Facebook user said, "Can you send me a car to pick me up?" I'll have to form a relationship with someone who does that kind of work, and then I'd be able to say yes. But obviously, at this point, I can't. I love it. Let's see. Roxanne is saying, "You're not learning. If you're not learning, you're not growing." I agree. Let's see. What else are we saying?
Can't see the link.
The link should be in the news feed. It won't show up on the screen. It shows up in the news feed. If you guys would like for me to put it on the screen, well, I can do that. Let me do that real quick. All right, so there's the link to Lunch with Landers on the screen. It's calendly.com/photo school and then /Lunch with Landers. So that's the link. All right. So let's get back to Stephen. And let's ask you the next question, Stephen, which is, oh, I'm on the wrong one. Of course. Do you consider education to be an investment in yourself? And if so, what does that actually mean? I mean, does that mean investing time? Does that mean investing money? What does that mean to you?
Well, first off, absolutely. Education is an investment in yourself. Um, a lot of the times you can get a free education off of YouTube. There's a plethora of sites out there that will give you, free posing guides, free this, but you have to invest your time into learning that. If you don't set out the time, the same thing like with, planning the education, you have to invest. No, sorry, let me correct myself. Time is your most valuable asset. If you are giving time, if you're giving time to your education, you are investing more in yourself than you realize. I speak, from experience, like what Tony said in the comments. The Lunch with Landers was an eye opener to see how much each second is actually costing you on a day-to-day basis. And I mean that where our time is valuable. Our time means something in the sense of it's taken away from your family. It's taken away from, the things that you value the most. And kind of rambled right there. Apologize. But time and money usually gets tied up in a sense in a very convoluted way when it comes to investing yourself. Um, a lot of times you think, well, I don't have the time, but I'll get time later, or I don't have the money, but you don't always need the money. You need to put your mind to it and put yourself in the mindset that every second I'm giving to growing is a second that my business or what I want to do with my life is I'm getting there. I'm getting one step closer, one step closer. With every second, it's one step closer. I'm sorry for rambling there, but I hope that made sense.
That's perfect. I mean, these questions take a little bit of thought, and we have to just allow that to roam around in our mind for a little bit, and then those words come out. So that's perfect, Stephen. I appreciate your opinion on that. Very good. All right, so let's ask that same question of Michelle. Michelle, do you consider education to be an investment in yourself? And if so, what does that actually mean? Is it does that mean investing time? Does it mean investing money? If it's money, is it just as small as you can get away with, or is it actually investing some real money into it? I mean, when people go to college, they're investing $40,000 to $140,000. Should photographers be investing that kind of money, or what do you feel?
This is a tricky question. Just because, I mean, you can take it in so many ways. I mean, definitely education it is an investment. Just looking back at what I've done, that's basically how I started. I learned actually with Jim. I want to, give a shout out to Jim. Jim is a wealth of knowledge. If you have not sat with him, with lunch, you're missing out. Jim, I basically started out with Jim to learn my camera. I didn't really think that I would take it into a business. So the investment in education is definitely crucial, depending on where you want to take it. This also goes into if you want to make a career out of it. I mean, if you're wanting to work for someone else, then yeah, you would probably have to get, definitely education, pay for your education because you're going to be working for an employer. But if you're wanting to be self-employed, definitely still you'd need to know all the skills, your technology skills, your, learning your lighting, composition. You need to learn how to provide quality on top of that to your customers. So it definitely, going back to the question, education is definitely an investment in yourself because you are taking time to learn, taking time away from your family. So you have to value yourself as an artist as well. And that's where, of course, the business end of it comes in, and educating yourself in the business, marketing, cost of doing business, all of that basically all comes in together. How successful do you want to be? What's your final goals? So that's why you do have a business plan. So definitely an investment in yourself on how you want to grow, and if you want to be successful in your photography business, if that's the route that you want. Basically, if you're going to work for someone, you do have an education, you will probably continue education on top of that, depending on the level you start out at. So either way, if you take it into working for someone or working for yourself, education is definitely an investment.
That's a thoughtful answer. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was good. A lot of different variables there, a lot of considerations, but it's part of the territory. Yeah. So good job. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Jim, for Portrait Profits. This is definitely a free platform for all photographers to look at. And he has it recorded, so you can go back and listen. So I'm telling you, Jim is amazing.
I did not ask for that, you guys, but I thoroughly appreciate it.
Well, I've known Jim for probably about 10 years now. So Jim is, all I can say is he's amazing.
Oh, I appreciate. You're amazing too.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, so let's ask that same question of Ashley, and Ashley has not taken any of my classes, so we get to hear a point of view of someone who may see me as someone who has some value, but wouldn't have any firsthand knowledge of it. And so, do you actually consider education to be an investment in yourself? And if so, does that mean time? Does it mean money? Does it mean both? And to what extent of these?
Yeah, absolutely. For me particularly, I invest my time in my education. Honestly, YouTube has been my main platform for education and investing myself. Like we talked about previously, there are so many different free workshops out there, and I do take advantage of those. But for me, if I have a question, honestly, it's easy for me to type it into YouTube. But popping on here today and kind of learning about, portrait profits and who you're about, I'd be more than willing to take a workshop with you and just kind of discover more about what's out there and what knowledge I'm missing out on. And like we talked about before, you never stop learning photography. No matter how professional you think you are, there's always something new to learn out there.
There is always something else to learn. That's absolutely true. I mean, Ashley, I've been studying photography. I don't know your age, and I'm not asking your age, but I would guess I've been studying photography for a lot longer than you've been alive, because I started studying photography in 1975. So I can't imagine that you know anything of the 70s personally, or even of the 80s. So therefore,
No.
so, but even though I've been studying photography since 1975,
Yeah.
what I've learned is that it is endless. There is no getting to the end. I know some
No.
people get to the point where they feel like they know enough, and possibly they have based on what they're doing, but is that the right thing to do to your client, and is it the right thing to do to your passion for photography to allow it to stagnate? Because I feel like that would be a horrible thing for both situations, a lose-lose, and I am all about finding the win-wins. And if I can find a win-win-win, I'm all about all three of those things. And so, yeah, there's always more to learn. When you learn a little something else, there's things that spike off of that you can go and reach into and look at, and things will spike off of that, and it just is endless. There's
Yes.
so much to learn, and I know that can sound overwhelming, but it's fascinating and it's exciting because you've got a whole career ahead of you, and you've got a huge amount of stuff, and you'll never get bored unless you choose to be bored.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
awesome. So the next question is for you, Ashley, and that question is, what is something you learned in a class? This could be a YouTube video, but what's something you've learned from someone else that you have used ever since?
No, I kind of struggled with that question just because I wasn't real sure how to answer that. But honestly, something that I have been using every single time that I take photographs is just manual mode. Like my first very photo, I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't sure which settings to be on. I kind of self-taught myself through the clients I've been through, and I've grown with my clients as well. And so with that being said, over time, like I mentioned, YouTube has been my main platform for myself before I got to know about you and what this program's about. But manual mode for me has been something that I've used ever since. And I use it every single time that I photograph a session.
Good. And do you mind me asking why you feel that is the right way to go?
As far as like manual mode,
Hmm.
absolutely. Manual mode, you have your full control over your settings. I myself have noticed the difference between auto and manual mode. And ever since I've learned to excel in manual mode, I've never went back to auto. I have full control over my images and how I want to photograph. And I photograph them the exact same way every time.
So, do you have some words of wisdom for those who are kind of stuck in either the auto modes or the program modes?
Absolutely. With that being said, I would just, take an education class like we've been talking about. Type it into YouTube. Just do anything you can. If you have a question, reach out. Don't be afraid to ask. There's so many different platforms out there, but manual mode is going to be much easier on you, and it's going to be much easier to edit.
That's interesting, and I totally agree with that. Um, the program modes and the auto mode, they're based off of the light meter, which is based off of the halfway point between solid black and solid white, so middle gray. But the photograph you're creating doesn't always, the scene doesn't always average out to middle gray.
Right.
Sometimes sometimes it's supposed to be dark. Sometimes it's supposed to be bright. And so therefore, when you take control, as you've said, using manual mode, then you can have a more consistent exposure the way you want it, rather than the way the camera is. We think of those as smart modes before we learn how to use manual. But once we understand manual and its advantages, we no longer look at that as the camera's smart mode, because we realize how that takes away all of our ability to be creative. It narrows down the choices. And if you're in full auto mode, you get control over nothing other than composition and when to press the shutter, instead of the 100,000 combinations of tools that you have available when you choose manual mode. So
Absolutely.
which would we choose? 2 or 3 choices, or 100,000 different combinations? I know 100,000, that's overwhelming. So you may not say 100,000, but you want more than 2 or 3 options.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
thank you for saying that,
Thank
Ashley.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So that same question is going to Stephen. Stephen, what's something that you've learned at some point in a class or some educational activity that you've used ever since that point?
Well, you're going to love this one, Jim. Binders. Tons and tons of binders.
Oh, that's funny.
Um,
That's funny.
and honestly, I adapted that from the E3 class. They have helped me keep track. But even beyond that, what's inside the binders is the most important thing that I've learned. And one of the things that I like to call out the most and focus on is defining my personal dictionary. Diction is very important when you're trying to get across what you are trying to portray as a business person, as well as an artist. So when you define how you see your work, how you want others to see your work, it changes the game and how you're willing to get out there. Before that, it was just like, oh yeah, here, look, take a look at my pic. Oh yeah, check out this photo. No, I take a look at my, photograph. Take a look at, the composition of this portrait. The stylized portrait. So to me, diction has been something that I completely did not think was going to be something I gained out of the E3 class, but my God, I was sorely mistaken with that.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. I'm trying to get through these binders. Sorry. Whew, man. It's like an avalanche all of a sudden.
You should have seen me trying to get them out.
You guys, he's referring, when he was talking about the binders part, it's not something I think everybody should do, because you're going to wind up with a lot of binders. I have, I don't know, at least 30 of them that are sitting right here in this small workspace, and there's at least 100 more. But these are, we creatives have a lot of ideas. I'm not preaching anything new to you guys. You're the choir. You've got lots of ideas. You come across these cool things. You have ideas on your own. You watch some YouTube video. You hear someone else talking, and you've got, oh, that's a great idea. I got to do that. And so, but you don't have time to do all those ideas right now. And so I think that you should have a place for your ideas, just like you have a home for other things. Like your car probably gets parked in the same spot each time. When you go take a physical life class, you probably sit in the same spot each time. When you come home and you put your keys somewhere, hopefully You put your keys in the same spot each time. Otherwise, you're spending time looking for your keys. And so I think that our ideas need homes as well. And so that's why, all my Portrait Prophets thoughts and ideas go into this binder, my flagship program called the Career Photographer Program. All of my thoughts and ideas go in there for that particular program. For the 10th annual San Antonio Photography Tournament, my ideas go in there. There's a bunch of them. But I think that we create is because we've got so many thoughts and ideas. We've got to give them a home. Otherwise, they just get overwhelmed and we forget about them. So that was one I was not expecting, Stephen.
I'm glad I could surprise you.
That was a good one. All right. So thank you for that, Stephen. And I'm going to ask that same question of Michelle. Michelle, what is something that you've learned in an educational activity that you have used ever since that point?
You don't need expensive equipment. You just need your camera and a flash to create a beautiful portrait. Very simple. So that's what I've used for the last pretty much 8 years being a photographer, is a camera and a flash. Knowing your lighting is key. So you can create anything. And then, of course, knowing your camera.
So it sounds like you believe in the KISS model, the keep it simple.
Yeah, pretty much. Shoot it in camera with less editing, pretty much.
Get it in camera. So it sounds like you're giving the rules to the annual San Antonio Photography Tournament, because you're not allowed to do any post-processing in the tournament.
Exactly. And I actually started out doing the tournaments too. So yeah, that was fun.
So this year is the 10th annual. Did you know that?
Yes.
10 years, 10th annual. And of course, one of our major sponsors is Digital Pro Lab. And has been every single year. I mean, not a single year skipped, not not this year. No, that's never happened. They are completely supportive. In fact, Amanda and her team at Digital Pro Lab are probably the most contribute the most time, effort, dollars into the San Antonio photography community. They are fantastic. We are blessed and lucky to have Amanda and Ray at the helm at the Digital Pro Lab and their team, because their team is what makes it happen too. It's Amanda's vision, and then everyone else putting all that effort into it to expand well beyond what they have the ability to do themselves.
Yeah, they are amazing.
So, yep. I like putting that little plug in because I love Digital Pro Lab. I love a lot of vendors out there, but I just love good people who want to do good things to help out the photography community. It's things that are greater than themselves, who aren't inward looking. They are outward looking as well as inward, because you have to be inward looking. You have to keep on keeping on with yourself, but turning it outside, turning some of that energy out is fantastic. So thank you for sharing that, Michelle. So you get the next question, the first one for this question, and that is: do you believe that someone who is self-taught has unknown gaps in their education, that they have just as much heart and caring as someone who takes a lot of classes, but they can't know what they don't know? And if they were go to YouTube, they can only ask the questions that they already know to ask. They can't ask what they don't yet know. And so do you feel that there are gaps in a self-taught person's education?
Kind of. Yes and no. I guess you can look at it that way. Learning a lot of things. At the beginning, of course, I learned a lot from your classes, the basics. But a lot of it has been self-taught. Practice basically perfects, your final product, or what have you, your portrait that you're trying to create. So there are gaps from experience. Photoshop. I am definitely self-taught in Photoshop. Photoshop is a monster. There's so much stuff that you can do in Photoshop that learning off YouTube, you can't learn everything. I'm just going to put this out there. This was kind of funny. I had a lady reach out to me wanting me to teach her Photoshop because she liked, my editing skills and so forth. And she wanted to know if she could learn it in 2 days. And I said, ma'am, I've been learning it for 15 years. I mean, so yeah, there are gaps. But if you stop learning, there's going to be more gaps. So definitely continuing education is definitely key to success.
Awesome. My husky came to visit me.
Goody.
So he's moving around down at my feet. Okay, thank you, bud. He just left.
At least he's not jumping.
I thought he would. you would have gotten to see some fun stuff going on. He loves to kiss and get in your face and just gets a little.
And talk.
Yeah, you know.
I know.
Oh man. Okay, so that's a good answer because while there's gaps in education, period. There's no way all of us can know everything.
No.
And so if we don't know something, then we can't possibly even ask the question on something. We've all been in situations where we've gone into it or heard about it. And maybe you've been in a classroom or a social situation where someone has something that they're presenting and they say, do you have any questions? And you're like, I don't know enough to ask a single question. I just don't know enough. So therefore, you really couldn't have gone to YouTube with it because you didn't know to ask the question. And so YouTube, I think YouTube's a fantastic way to learn. And there's others out there too. Sharon Sutherland mentioned Creative Live, but YouTube is fantastic, and I definitely think that everyone should use it. I don't think it's a good primary source of education or main source of education. I think it's a fantastic secondary source of education. In other words, when you have a question, and you just need an answer as quickly as you can get it, so you can apply it right now. That YouTube supplies that to you a whole lot easier than taking a class at the local community college or with somebody like me. So with someone who's doing private coaching, of course, maybe it's easier to call your coach and ask. But if you don't have that, then that's probably the way to go. Do you see it similarly or differently than how I am thinking?
No, it's definitely they're very similar. I mean, there are like Udemy, Skillshare. PPA has some
Yes.
classes on there. B&H, Adorama. They all have lots of workshops also that are free. There's just so many platforms that you can look at. I mean, even podcasts. Podcasts with other photographers. You learn from that too. They tell you what their mistakes are. So, we all have mistakes. We learn from them,
Yeah.
So, definitely we learn from the school of hard knocks sometimes. And that's where I feel like I've been, learning on my own, but it's definitely a continuous learning cycle. It's a process of, your business, learn the process. Basically, you hear that all the time. You have to have a process in your business to be successful and make that money.
There we go. Yep. All right. So thank you for that, Michelle. And that same question is going to Ashley. Ashley, do you believe that that someone who's self-taught might have some gaps in their education?
In agreeing to Michelle, I have to say yes and no. I think even the most professional photographer, even the student that you mentioned, for example, she took 300 hours of courses with you. And that just goes to show that I think with any photographer, whether you're just starting out or you're an advanced photographer, there's always room for improvement. There's always room to improve your skills. There's always room for knowledge and to get to know more information about what's out there as far as photography.
Totally agree with that. Yep. Yeah. We don't know. We're never going to know it all. And so someone who's self-taught has gaps in their education, but someone who has been taking classes has gaps in their education too. And it could be maybe that they weren't paying attention to that part of the class. It could be that it wasn't covered in the class, so therefore there's that gap there.
Sure.
Maybe it was something, a direction that student goes off into that wasn't even a part of the class, and so there's going to be gaps no matter what direction you go. Um, the difference in self-taught. Have you heard that? What is that quote? The person who teaches, it was a okay, tell me what you think about this, because I think of it as being true and upsetting. Bother. It's kind of, it sounds mean, but it's
Yeah.
true. So
Yeah. Mhm.
the person who teaches himself has a fool for a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard that before. Yeah, and I
And
agree with
so
that.
when we're trying to learn on our own something, we're like that's offensive. That offends me. I'm bothered by that.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I'm putting good things in front of me. I'm trying hard. You can't say I'm a fool. But the bottom line is, why would
Yeah.
they say something like that?
Right.
And that's because if we're going to be learning from someone, doesn't it make more sense to learn from someone who knows more than we do?
Yeah.
So I think that's what that's based on.
Yeah.
But
I
also,
agree. Yeah.
while I did start off with a bachelor's degree in photography, so yeah, I knew a lot about the photography side. I started off with no education on the business side. So I started at zero there, which a lot of us do. I don't think I'm any different than a lot I may be different on the photography side, but I don't think I'm any different on the business side.
Yes.
I started off with no education there, and I just went on my own. I took classes. I not in school because they didn't require them. But afterwards, I would do seminars. I would show up to different things at different events. The SBA used to have classes, which I think they still do. And so I would show up to those different things, and I would try to learn it. It was mostly self-taught because it was unorganized. It was a piece here and a piece there and another piece here and a piece here.
Right.
And so there wasn't anything that was contiguous that really held everything together. And
Sure.
I think that part harmed me in the short run,
Yeah.
because I didn't have that structure to begin with. And so these pieces didn't fit together the way they should have. It's not that they didn't fit together, period. They didn't fit together with anything that was continuous. So therefore, it took me a lot longer to learn it had I just learned it all together in a
Right.
systemized class rather than trying to self-teach myself on that subject.
Yeah,
Do
and
you
I
feel
absolutely
that
have to
way?
agree with you on that. Yeah, absolutely. Because I kind of, the way you described yourself is sort of the way that I'm kind of going about it. Being a small town photographer, you're kind of sheltered. You don't really know exactly where to reach out. So YouTube has always been my platform.
Sure.
And I will agree. I've kind of reached out. Like I had a client that asked me if I could Photoshop something, and I said, "Well, let me see what I can do." And I took a 10-minute video, I guess, class, I guess, on YouTube, and sure enough, I learned it within 20 minutes. but
Yes.
was that
Nice.
was that the most efficient way? Could I have learned more if I would have taken a class specifically on that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Or if it's going to take you too long, pay someone else to do it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for answering
Yes.
that, Ashley.
Yes. Thank you.
Let's ask that same question of Stephen. All right, Stephen, self-taught versus systemized, organized classes. What's your opinion?
There are so many gaps that you're ignorant of when you're self-taught. It's mind-boggling. And I'm a prime example of that. I believed what I was doing was good enough because it's what I always did. It's what I learned from the beginning. And while it was the right way at the time, it hindered my growth. Thinking I knew everything I needed to get going held me back far longer than I'm proud to say. But at the same time, I'm proud to say that I can acknowledge that I was woefully ignorant, but now I have no excuse. I know there's education out there that, like Michelle and Ashley had said, that there's free avenues of education that you just gotta search out there. Portrait Profits, Lunch with Landers, search out and try to learn one-on-one with someone, because that was the biggest eye-opener to me, that oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing, even though I told everybody I was a professional, but I'm a professional because I know what I'm doing. You don't know what you don't know until you know it. And it's a hard fact of life for business owners and photographers, that we are never going to know it all. But the moment we stop trying to know it all, we failed. And that's just, my opinion. But, got to keep trying.
You're a philosopher. Does that drive your wife crazy sometimes?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry, that wasn't meant as a negative. It was more of a I feel ya.
Oh, so you know the pain.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think my wife's on the other room listening right now too. We'll talk later about this, Jim.
That's right. That's right. Roxanne, we're talking about you. Good about you. We love you. All right. So the next question's going to you, Stephen, and it's the last question before our closing thoughts. Now, I want you to answer one of these questions, not both, just because of time. So either what types of education have you taken advantage of that you feel like you've gotten the most value from, or what education do you think is next for you? What are you going to do next?
Next, there's too many next. And I say that with love to all educators. I have so many different avenues to go with next. It's easier for me to just tell you real quickly. E3 class, business class, has been a game changer. As one of the comments said, Creative Live, master classes. I'm a firm believer in YouTube University and Portrait Profits. I've taken advantage of those. I've taken advantage of, people who have been in this field longer than me, and just had, 30 minutes to let me tag along and just see how they do it. And, if you could just do some of those, not even all of those, just some of them, you're growing, and it's going to show in the final outcome.
Very good. Good answer. Thank you, Stephen. All right, let's ask that same question, and let's go to Michelle. So, Michelle, you can answer either one of these questions. What types of education have you taken advantage of that you feel are most valuable, or what's next for you?
Well, I started my next actually about a month ago. So I've been taking off camera flash course, and it's a hands-on learning, basically how to use a trigger and so forth. that was the crazy part of it. I was so scared of the numbers and all that stuff, but when you see the final result, it's amazing. And you take your photography to the next level. So that is basically what I'm learning, because I am opening a studio. So I need to learn and know everything about studio next level.
Learning about lighting. There's some people who believe that natural lighting is the only way to go because it's natural, and artificial lighting looks fake. It looks harsh. What do you say to those guys?
I started out with natural light, but now working with off-camera flash, it's like, whoa, mind-blowing. Like, you take your art to the next level using different color gels. Getting more creative, which is something that I've been wanting to do for the last couple of years. And that's basically, where I want to take myself, and so that's why I continue the education, owning my art. Mindset is everything, focusing on that end goal. So I'm almost there, but there's still lots of obstacles. You're still learning. You think you're almost there, and it's like something else comes up. It's all a learning process, but learning all different types of lighting You do
Yeah.
wonders. You do
They're
wonders.
just tools.
They're just
And
tools.
so it's kind of silly to say, oh, that tool's bad, or that whole grouping of tools is bad. That doesn't make any sense. In fact, that, if anything, is a red flag to people who know better, is you have purposefully closed your mind to new information, which doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense. It'd be like saying, I don't like hammers because hammers can go through walls. Yeah, if you use it wrong. Same thing with the flash. If you use it wrong, yes, it's going to look too harsh. Yes, it's going to look unnatural. So, yeah, you can use it wrong, just like you can use a hammer wrong. But who says they don't like hammers because they go through walls? Nobody. But for whatever reason, photographers say they don't like flash because it doesn't look natural. Come on, guys.
Once you get into it and you start learning, then you're like, why didn't I do this a long time ago?
Yeah.
It's you just get more creative. You think out of the box. You can create a lot more cool things, pretty much.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you so much for that, Michelle.
You're welcome.
All right, let's bring that same question to Ashley. And Ashley, what types of education have you taken advantage of that you feel are the most valuable to you? Or what do you feel is in your future? What do you think is next? One of those two.
I'm going to take the second question. What education is next for me? I would really like to more focus on, lighting, off-camera flash, on-camera flash. I've done several weddings, and I've kind of self-taught myself. I've actually taken one course where it was like sort of like a, I don't know how you really describe it, but it was sort of like a fake wedding. I don't know what quite the word for it, but anyway, it was sort of like a workshop basically, to an introduction of how to photograph weddings. And so that was kind of like the main concept that I had learned. But what I really want to focus more on for weddings in the future is learning a lot more about flash, because you're going to be in so many different lighting situations. Specifically out here, because we're more rustic and country out here. I work with a lot of darker backgrounds, so a lot of like natural woods and stuff are going to pull a lot more orange tones. So I really want to get more creative and more in depth about how to have more control with my lighting.
That's a good one. Yep. Yeah, good one. All right. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, thank you.
So we've come to the end of the questions, and so I want to give each one of you a moment to give us some closing thoughts. Just a sentence or two on your opinion, based on what you know so far. Could be based on what you've learned during this time we've spent together. But what are your closing thoughts on what should you do, or what should a photographer do to grow as a photographer?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've taken so much in of this course right now that I'd be more than willing to continue my education into working with you. And I encourage other photographers to do the same if they're out there listening and watching. I don't know if everyone said hi or not. But if you're listening as a newcomer photographer, a beginner, whether you're intermediate or an expert, continue your education, because that's going to benefit you in the long run. And thank you, Jim, for allowing me to be a part of this show.
Of course. Ashley and I talked 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago. And I don't recall what she was doing, but it got my attention. And so I was like, who's this? I want to know who this is. So I reached out to her, and I was very impressed. I thought she knew what she was, where she was heading. I felt like she was doing the right thing for her business and for her clients, and I thought she was very well spoken. And so I was like, "You've got to be on the Portrait Profits show," and so that's why she's here, because of that. So thank you for being willing to invest your time into this. Thank you for being willing to share what you know with others.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be a part of this show, and I will be on, you'll be seeing my face around a lot more.
Yay.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. All right. So closing thoughts now to Stephen. Stephen, do you have any last minute thoughts or words of advice?
Well, first off, I just want to thank everyone for giving their time to be here. Like I said, time is your most valuable asset, and just being here is energizing for me, and I'm sure it's energizing for a lot of the other people who have been timid and just kind of tiptoeing in the community. You know, I know a lot of our faces look scary. I'm a big hairy guy, but you know, reach out. We want the community to grow, and if that doesn't come across in the show, then tell me how I could show you, because everybody here just wants success. Because you succeed, I end up succeeding. You grow, the community grows, I'm forced to grow and push myself farther. So Portrait Profits, being invited to this panel, I am just grateful for all of this. Thank you. Just thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Stephen. You rock.
Thank you,
Everybody does. We always have such good panelists. I love you guys. So thank you for investing your time with us and sharing the experiences that you have, being open to that. So we appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you so much.
And let's bring on Michelle. Michelle, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to share as philosophy or anything that you think that you can share with us for photographers to grow in their love of photography or their growth of their business?
Yeah, I want to, of course, thank you for inviting me to be part of the panel. I think as photographers and our community, we basically have to come together because we all learn different ways. And, don't look at it as competition, because the money's out there. You just have to go get it. Passion, you have to have passion and drive. If this is something that you want, then go get it. Don't sit around and think that people are going to come to you. Get out there and network. Get involved in the community. Look at those free classes. Like I said, Jim is a wealth of knowledge. Go sit with him, talk to him. He's a great mentor. Find a mentor. There's, like I said, lots of free classes. Follow other photographers, reach out to maybe other photographers, learn how to take criticism, because that's how we grow. Learning from our mistakes, that is how we grow. And that's what makes us who we are. I basically, like I said, I will be opening up my studio. I will be having workshops also to help other photographers build their portfolios, because it's very important to have a portfolio when you're starting out. I didn't have that. So I feel like if I can provide that to other photographers who are wanting to pursue a career in photography, I have had a lot of photographers reach out to me for mentoring. So that's something that I may be doing in the future as well. I'm always, someone to come and ask, and I ask myself. If I don't know anything, I'll ask and reach out to other photographers, not only here in the San Antonio area. I have friend photographers all over different states and so forth, different workshops that I've gone through. It never stop learning. If this is your passion and your drive, then go for it. Nothing's going to stop you except for you. So, there's just so much. Like I said, if you want to make this happen, then you make it happen.
Sounds good to me. I'm glad that you are open to mentoring others and helping them with whatever their direction is. That you're going to be planning as part of yourself going forward. This help of others, uplifting other photographers, because I have found it to be beneficial not only to the person who's receiving it, but to me as well.
Yeah.
I found it to be a win-win, because even something as simple as they asked me a question that I never even thought of before.
Right.
And now I am thinking about it from a different way. And so I have a more full view of a subject I thought I knew pretty darn well. And so I love that. It's just like kind of sharing with me one more way that I can learn and grow. Not that I need help in that area, because I've got plenty of things I want to learn and grow in. But I appreciate it when someone brings that to my attention. When someone critiques what I'm doing, or asks what I'm doing, why do you do it that way? I don't think of it as they're critiquing me or saying I'm doing it wrong. I'm thinking that they're just trying to learn, and thinking that, he does it this way. I don't see why he's doing that way, so I'm going to ask. I appreciate the person who asks. And it's not something that I would find offensive, and clearly you don't either, or you wouldn't be allowing this to happen in your life.
No, I mean, that's, like I said, I've learned from, other photographers, because they have like different ways of learning, and it's like sometimes it's like a shortcut for you, especially in Photoshop. So like I said, Photoshop is a whole monster. I mean, if you can kind of narrow it down to help you, shorten your editing, or outsourcing it on top of that. I have actually outsourced some of my editing on top of that. So
smart.
Yeah. So there's just so much that you can do, but I am an open book on top of that. So that's something that's always been, in my mind, and I love to help people on top of that. So that's pretty much, we work together, we grow together, and we build together. So that is my motto.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
That's awesome. All right, I'm going to bring you back here in just a second.
Awesome.
I'm going to bring all of our speakers and Amanda back on for a closing thank you. And then we're going to, Amanda and I are going to say a few words together, and then I'm going to announce the upcoming classes so you know what's coming and you know what to put on your calendar. So hang on for that. Plus, Amanda has something to share with you guys. So let's bring our panelists back on. Ashley and Michelle and Stephen, and bring Amanda back on too, the birthday girl. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's been fun.
I really enjoyed hearing everybody's perspectives. Congratulations on all your success that you've achieved thus far. I know, looking back, I'm sure, in 8 years, or 5 years or 10 years, however long y'all been doing it, it seems like it kind of goes by in a blink of an eye, but that's a lot of time and energy you've put into a craft, and you should be proud of yourselves, because now, not only have you taken that education, but, whether you're doing it already or today, even just being on the panel, you're educating people, and being an educator in and of itself is a way of continuing to grow. I know myself, I know Jim will say the same thing. As educators, we learn so much all the time. One, because you have to hone your own craft in order to teach it. And then, your students, people that ask you questions, they're going to challenge you in different ways, and they're going to make you think outside of what you know, and it's going to adapt your own teaching style and technique. So thank you for continuing that, and continuing to grow in that effort too. So thank you.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for investing your time. And I know that you've got lives, so therefore you sacrifice something to be here with us today to uplift the photography community. So thank you for that sacrifice, and thank you for all that you're doing to grow yourself, because that is beneficial to the entire photography community. And of course, thank you for your time today. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Let's visit for just a little while, Amanda. So, how is it that we always get the best panelists? These guys are fantastic.
I think you just know a lot of fabulous people, and I love that.
I mean, we enjoy hearing things from different points of view, and you and I are alike in that points of view that don't agree with us aren't bothering us. We want to hear it because there's got to be something about what they're doing or what they're believing in that's good, and we can gain something from it, even though it may not be the same as ours and it may be totally different. There's something about what they believe in that is of benefit, and if we listen, we gain.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I think it's very valuable to hear other perspectives, and I continue to learn every day from every person that I learn from or hear from. Even if it's a quick meeting, it doesn't even have to be a very long, drawn out conversation. Sometimes you just, people's creative energies even teach me things. So I value that.
There's a few people who want to say something to you, so I'm going to put those comments on the screen real quick. You probably already saw them, but I want everybody to see them. So, and you're welcome to say something to them if you want to. But I'm going to
Yes.
I'm going to scroll through them.
Thank you so much, Roxanne and Miguel. Oh, and Amber. Thank you.
Let's see. I think that there's some more. Man, I went through too fast. I went through the end already. Oh, here's one.
And Tony.
Yep. So I think there were more, and you guys, if you said happy birthday to Amanda, you can still say it. But if I skipped you, I'm so sorry. I didn't intend to. There was a ton of comments in there. Just remember, we're on the page that you're on, but we're also on 7 different ones in addition to the one that you're on. And so I'm scrolling through all of the comments on all of those pages, and so yeah, I'm gonna miss some. I am. But thank you guys for being here and watching this show, especially because you are helping to grow the photography community just by increasing what you know, because people watch you. They look at what you're doing and all the positive changes that you're making, the ways that you're growing. Other people are noticing. They're visiting your website. They're visiting your Facebook page. They see these things and they grow because you've grown. So thank you for indirectly advancing and uplifting the rest of the photography community. Amanda, did you have something you wanted to share with us before I talk about the upcoming classes?
Of course. Well, as y'all know, because Jim said it a couple of times and because I felt so much love today, it is my birthday. And all week I've decided to do a very special birthday sale on one of my absolute favorite product lines in my favorite size. I love an 8x10 size. It's not a wall portrait, but it is a beautiful, perfect size that everybody, is familiar with. It's something that can go on a wall. It definitely is something that you can put on a mantle. It's something that you can store. I love the 8x10 size print. For me personally, it's something that I print a lot of, especially in the type of photography that I do, which is more black and white, more modern conceptual. It's just something that's near and dear to me, that particular size. It's literally the most popular size ordered at Digital Pro Lab. So it's one of my favorites, of course. And then the fine art line, which is all of our hand and mule papers. They're all thicker. Most of our matte papers are in that product line, like our Smooth Photo Rag, German Etching, Torchon, Baryta. These are more textured papers. So if you haven't really experienced printing your work on something other than a luster, glossy, or metallic paper, which are your silver halide type prints, then you want to try a fine art paper. And this would be a great opportunity for you to do it. Again, it's my favorite. So I've decided to do 20% off when you use the code BDAY20. I would love to say that I'm 20, but I am not 20. If we did my actual age, I'd be giving you or paying you to actually do the prints through that sale. But 20 is what we're going to do for this week. It's all the way through Saturday. So hopefully taking advantage of that because I love that size. So hope y'all love it too.
Awesome. 20% off an 8x10 and it's a fine art print. That's awesome. So you guys write down that promo code, because when it goes off the screen, you're not going to see it anymore. I guess you could go back in the feed and come back to it if you wanted to, but it's simple. BDAY20. Is it all caps?
It's actually not case sensitive.
Okay. So BDAY20 up until the 17th. So you got several days to take advantage of it, but don't wait things like this it's too easy to forget about it. So go through your images and choose several of them. Is there a limit on the number?
No limit at all. You can order one, you can order 100, 20% off. And as I always say, if you're not familiar, we do have two different print workflows. We have our full service print workflow, and then we have our monitor match print workflow. I always encourage our professional photographers to take advantage of our monitor match print workflow. That's where we help to educate you on the importance of monitor calibration, so that when you're editing your photos in Photoshop, Lightroom, or some other editing software, because that's part of the education that y'all are dedicating to, a key component of that is making sure that your monitor is calibrated. If it's not calibrated, it's not going to accurately print out at a professional photo lab. So this entire workflow is dedicated to preserving everything that you're spending hours doing. And on top of that, you get anywhere from 20 to 50% off just by ordering through that system, because you're doing most of the work. Our techs are not having to color correct your images or do anything other than maintain our quality standards of printing. So not only do you get, that deep discount through that system or that print workflow, then you can add the birthday 20% off your fine art print and get even more discount for the printing.
Nice.
So there's really no excuse not to print, not with Digital Pro Lab anyways. We're always giving something so that we can encourage printing, because we are big proponents of the printed photograph. We know the importance of it, the value of it, and we know how important it is to building your businesses as professional photographers as well. So take advantage of that and the education that we have to give as well.
It looks like Rick is appreciating you giving that deal, and so is Robin Brian. And Miguel commented that it's also on the website, so that's good.
Yeah.
Nice. There's several other comments here, but those are the ones that were in relation to what you just said. Awesome. All right. Well, Amanda, thank you for being here, even though it's your birthday. I mean, you could have been spending it with Ray or with some friends, but you're here with us on your birthday, and so that's special. That means a lot to us, because you certainly don't have to, and yet you are. So you rock. Your team rocks, and we are so grateful that you're a big part of the San Antonio photography community. Thank you for making us look like heroes.
I love y'all.
All right. So I'm going to take you off, Amanda, and tell them about the upcoming classes. Let's see. Oh, did I do that too soon? Where am I? There we go. The upcoming shows. All right, so I want to tell you about what is coming up. And we have every a Portrait Profit show every single Monday, and with the second Monday of every month, like today, we do it in the evening, because that's when we do our panels, and that's just easier to get people to talk in the evenings because they're busy during the day. But our Portrait Profit show is at noon every single Monday, with the exception of the second Monday of each month. So this coming Monday, we have a. Let me bring the slide up real quick. We have a procedure that's going on. It's procedures for a Black Friday sale is what's coming up on this coming Monday. Now, this does not mean that it is a Black Friday only. We're going to be basing it on Black Friday, but this is really how to run a sale of any type. Now, not all photographers should run sales. I'll preface it by saying that there's a lot of business models that shouldn't be doing something like this. But for those who do, here's one way of running a sale. And because it's about 9 weeks away, 10 weeks today, but 9 weeks when we do it, that's giving you about the right amount of time in order to make it happen, to put it together, put your marketing materials together and get them out in time to make this happen on that day. Now, some people expand it and include that Cyber Monday. We'll talk about things like that. So that's what's coming up next week. Now, the week after that, the last Tuesday in September, we're going to be talking about the little extras you can do today that help your business grow. So that's what's coming up. That rounds out this month. And we've got some good stuff coming up. There's the next two. So do me a favor and do yourself a favor. Put those on your calendar right now. Mondays at noon, Portrait Profit Show right here on this Facebook page or this LinkedIn page or this YouTube channel that you're watching right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Now, I wanted to let you know that Landers Photography School has some classes coming up, like our Photoshop class and our, let's see what else is coming up. Our Intro to Portrait Photography is coming up, and that's going to be on Saturdays. So, and it's later this month. I think it's the last Saturday of this month when that one starts. But go to landersphotoschool.com, click on classes, and then see what options are available. But you've got the Photo 101, you have the portrait photography, and we have another one that's starting this month, and that is, or maybe it's next month that this one starts, is creative photography. And it looks like I don't have that banner up. Okay, that's all right. Plus, of course, I have the business assessment consultation, and this is free. I'm not even charging for this for a 30-minute one. Now, we can do a full version of it, and then, of course, I'm going to charge for it. But I'll give you a free 30-minute one, and we talk about your business. We talk about pricing, and we talk about marketing, whatever it is you want to talk about your business. And I'm going to put that, let's see, I'm going to put it on the screen right now. There is the address for it, and I'm also going to put it in the chat. So let's put it there. So that should be coming up in the comment section of the news feed right now, just giving you a link to that. And it's just a free 30-minute session to talk about you or your business, wherever you're heading. You could use it as an annual business review if you'd like, because I give one of these away to each person per year. At least I do that right now. I may not be able to do that in the future because I do have quite a few. I did 3 today, and that's about where I max out at. I really can't do a huge number, but get yourself on the schedule. It's 60 days out in advance. This link takes you to my calendar, and it's 60 days out. So if you think you need help within the next 60 days, get on my calendar. Simple as that. So take advantage of that today, because you'll forget about it otherwise. Of course, I have private classes at Landers Photography School and private business classes and group business classes. And I showed you this binder before. This is the Career Photographer program is our flagship program that takes a year to complete. Now, it used to take 2 years, but I've changed it. It takes 1 year now to complete. And just if you're curious about these, reach out to me and be happy to talk with you one-on-one about those. Now, for those of you who are watching live, if you haven't already, will you do me a favor and enter in #live? That way I know you're watching live. If you're watching a replay, enter in #replay. That way I know you're here. And of course, during all of our shows, we encourage commenting. We encourage questions. And commenting on what the panelists said, saying thank you for them being here. All of this helps to fuel this energy that we have that continues this project, this show that we have. And so click that love button, click that like button. This continues to fuel us, and click that share button. But this brings us to the end of another Portrait Profit Show. And I want to thank you so much for investing your time and sacrificing something else that was probably just as important to be here with us this evening. So for Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, this is Jim Landers bringing you the weekly Portrait Profit Show, giving you evolving content, awareness, and even fun to the business side of photography through helpful information, step-by-step processes, and action steps that will guide you through the struggles that you deal with now, so you are constantly realigned to the success you deserve. Be here every Monday to hear a different way of looking at the business side of photography. Thank you for investing your time here at the Portrait Profit Show. Bye, guys.